As more people continue to cross the English Channel and illegally enter the UK, our Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has introduced a new plan to fast-track the asylum applications, resulting in even more approvals. Hello everybody, welcome to the channel that challenges the mainstream media and the political establishment, from the left-wing nutters to the globalist elite. Today we're going to be talking about the border crisis and what's happening over the English Channel and the backlog of the applications. So they call them the asylum applications. Even if you are an economic migrant illegally into the country, you can claim to be an asylum seeker and you go through the process. Even before 2020, when the escalation of the small boats happened, the Home Office have been so incompetent over the years that there had already been a backlog. And that back then, the numbers were much lower. Now we have tens of thousands on a regular basis every year coming in. In regards to the small boats alone, you've got all the other routes as well. But Rishi Sunak, under pressure, because he made a pledge when he stood for Tory leadership, he said, I'm going to focus on the backlog, rather than stopping the boats, for example, or doing the deportations. But the plan to sort out the backlog has now been announced, and it's not what you think it is. It's to fast-track the applications without actual vetting people's backgrounds, without actually doing some sort of proper process and interview. They are sending people questionnaires, and they're going to have to fill out the questionnaires, and that's it. As long as they fill it out on time, read the deadline, and say the right things, they can stay, and their application will go forward. Now, it's quite fascinating what's going on. So the plan to cut the asylum backlog by sending questionnaires to refugees instead of conducting official interviews will demand that claimants reply in English within 20 working days or risk refusal. So now, the left-wing outlets, like the one, all these guys that are talking about, The Guardian, for example, are spinning it, saying, we are also against this because it's only 28 days or whatever, how many days, and they demand you to speak English. Like, you're having a meltdown because the application or the questionnaire will require you to write in English. What? Okay, fair enough. But we have a problem with it for a different reason. We have a problem with it because it's going to increase the rate of approvals, which is already high. The problem is not just the backlog. The problem is the acceptance rates, especially when it came to the Albanian migrants. That is not some sort of international conflict zone. And with the acceptance rates in this country is much higher than any other country in Europe or around the world. So we have to talk about the truth. Now, they're saying that the Home Office will start sending these questionnaires of like 11-page documents. It's 11 pages, and you have 20 days to do it, and people are freaking out about it. So they're sending initially to 12,000 people from Afghanistan. And it's funny, because they're focusing on those who claim to come from Afghanistan or Syria, Libya, and all these places. But in reality, we can't even check because they don't really have any ID. They completely destroy any sort of identification before they arrive. And the problem here is that there would be a few legitimate asylum seekers whose cases are going to be undermined, and the whole concept of refugees will be undermined because so many people are taking advantage of the system. So it's a lose-lose situation at this point in this country. We found out, it was a leaked document, we discovered some of the questions. What sort of questions do they actually ask these people? It's fascinating. So the main question is actually very, very messed up because it actually helps the migrants, the illegal migrants. It says, were you subject to human trafficking? So the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring or receipt of people through force or fraud or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit. Or modern slavery during your journey to or after you arrived in the UK. Okay. You do realize this is exactly what the left-wing activist lawyers have been using as a loophole to get a lot of people, including the Albanians, to stay here. So they don't really say that we are political refugees, for example. They go and say, oh, well, I'm innocent. I wasn't even planning to come here, and some human trafficker essentially kidnapped me, and I'm now here. So this is going to be used. All you have to do is just tick yes, and now you're a victim of human trafficking and modern slavery, and this is exactly what they want you to do. And it's fascinating. Why do you even have that sort of question on it? I know it's difficult to say. We're sitting on the outside. We're not working in the Home Office. We can't really say don't have that question on, because for obvious reasons you need to have that question on. But I'm not really just criticizing the question itself. I'm criticizing the questionnaire, the whole of the document. Why? If you want to sort out the backlog, maybe stop the migration first, go through the actual applications, and the majority of them you can see. I'm pretty sure you can sort out most of the backlog, those who are entering illegally, almost immediately. Because if you enter the country illegally, you need to get out and go to France, send your application in, and we'll listen. That's the best agreement we could make with the French government, who claim to be our friends and allies. We could make an agreement saying anybody come here on a boat, we'll bring him back to Calais or somewhere, sit there, send your application, we'll go through your interview, and then we'll, if possible, we'll bring you here. On paper, logically. But who's going to listen to my ITC? No one in the government. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you have any other solution, instead of sending a questionnaire to people to fill out, and we'll see what your comments are saying about the state of the country. If you're new to the channel, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe. I'm Mahyar, and we are the media.